Hello, everybody.
So nice to be here again with you.
Um, we're here for another English edition of the Paul Brunton official YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about PB's early life and his teachers and his the mystical experiences he had when he was younger before he went to India.
We were thinking to share with you about Paul Brunton. As we know, Paul Brunton speak about the philosophic star. What is the philosophic star? Is the philosophic star, it is like the philosopher. And today our intention is to share with you how a philosopher how is the path of the philosopher? How we could become a philosopher? What is this, the philosophic star, and how we could, realize this? Because if he realized the philosophic path, is because we could also. He came as a symbol for us that are the seekers, as Micha-El said. Micha-El, what is the life of Paul Brunton? Do you think the life of Paul Brunton is important? What he did, to become a philosopher? How could we get at this? And if you could say, something for us today.
Well, that's a good question. I think a lot of us included, are curious about PB and his life. There's two ways of answering that question. The personal details about PB's life are probably not important, and we'll read PB says that. But as Gran said, PB as a symbol of what is possible for us is very valuable. So today we're going to talk about PB's life from the perspective of him showing us what is possible for us. So let's see what PB says. This is from the notebooks. He says, PB as a private person does not count. There are hundreds of millions of such persons anyway. What is one person and his quest? PB's personal experiences and views are not of any particular importance or special consequence. What happened to the individual man named B is a matter of account to no one except himself. So he's like saying, my personal life is none of your business. He's more polite than that, right? However, as a symbol of a new Western movement of thought, he is vastly greater than himself. In his mind and person, the historic need for a new grasp of contemporary spiritual problems found a plain-speaking voice. So PB's saying, because all of you need this spiritual teaching in a new form that is modern and adapted to the life that we have now, PB came to deliver that. And in that sense, he's important because he represents our need and his response to our need. So we're not going to give too much detail about PB's life because, as he said, that's not important. But we're going to talk about PB's life as the example for us of what is possible. And we'll see. He went through the whole range of human experiences from depression and disillusionment, and we'll go into all that. But he's a good example for us because he got to the end and we're on the way.
What is the synthesis that he did? I say was a theoretical, was because he searched so much. How he get to this conclusion? Because since that what he wrote is about his own experience, correct?
So PB said that everything he wrote is based on his own personal experience. So the modern synthesis of traditional teachings that he provided is not theoretical. It's not academic. It's not what he learned from someone else. Of course, he learned a lot from other people, but it's based on his own personal experience. And we'll see as we go through him talking about his illumination experiences and his mystical experiences, it's very clear that what he wrote about later, he went through himself.
Okay. We know that Paul Brunton born in London. Could you give a little more information about his biography, just for illustration?
Sure, but we have to be brief because PB as a private person does not count. So as you said, he was born in 1898 in London. His parents were Russian Jewish immigrants. He was originally raised in a Jewish part of London, in the Jewish environment. His mother died when he was very young. His father remarried. We'll see that he had a lot of upheaval, a lot of emotional challenges, a lot of depression and things like that during his younger life. He was in World War I. We might not think of PB as a soldier, but PB was in a tank battalion in World War I. He was always a very ardent spiritual seeker. London and England at the time was like a tempest of different spiritual groups. So he was in the Theosophical Society, which he became disillusioned with. He was in many other spiritual movements, but he was always looking for something. He got married in his 20s to a fellow spiritual seeker that was part of like a bohemian group of spiritual seekers that he was part of. He became a father. He was not born as Paul Brunton. He was born with a Jewish name, and when his father changed the last name to Hurst, PB adopted the name Raphael Hurst, which you see in some of his early journal articles. But when he became known more publicly as a writer through Search and Secret India, he wanted what we call a pen name. So his pen name is Paul Brunton, but that was not his birth name.
But his birth name wasn't even Raphael.
No, his birth name was, it's not important, but his last name was Isaacs.
Okay.
What else would you like me to tell you?
Seems to me that he, besides theosophy, in that times, he learned so much about science, Christian science also, because this is important because later on, like he speaks so much about Jesus in his work, including in the Inner Reality, that book, and how he went so much into Christianity also.
So PB's stepmother was a Christian Scientist, so he was exposed to that religion. Later on, he became critical of it. He uses it as an example of a spiritual philosophy that has some truth in it and has some misunderstandings. Someone once asked him why he didn't write more about Judaism. He did study Kabbalah at different points in his life, but he basically said that wasn't my task. My dharma was not to present a Jewish teaching. My dharma was to present this philosophical synthesis. And because Christianity is the dominant religion in the West and the figure of Christ is so important, he talked a lot about Jesus.
Because even theosophy thinks that wasn't his path, right?
No, many people in the Theosophical Society became disillusioned after Blavatsky's death due to certain political controversies that came about in theosophy. So in the end, he abandoned theosophy.
But still, he had so much glimpses during his early age.
Yes, we'll read some of his accounts of his glimpses. If you read Search and Secret India, you would get the impression that that was PB's spiritual awakening. But he later said he did that as a literary device to make the book more interesting. But actually, he had many mystical experiences before he even went to India and had many spiritual teachers. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
This what PB did with the Secret India reminded me the story of Ananda Mayama also, because she also said she plays, as if it's like the seeker, like in the early ages. She plays like if she's seeking something, she went to the path, but that was only some way to teach, humanity, to teach us how to go step by step, but she really didn't go through that because she was really, illuminated, I could say, like, or awakened in that moment.
So this is the difference between someone who is born in an illumined state, which we believe is true for Nanda Mayama, and someone who had to go through an awakening into their illuminated state, which is PB. So it's interesting because the first book that woke PB up to the idea of a spiritual path was by a Sufi. So I'll read this. The first book which brought me into mystical ideas was a curious fictional composition by Abu Bakr ibn Abtufal. The book opened my knowledge in a vague general way to the possibilities of meditation as I embarked upon the practice, unguided, uninstructed, groping my way at first in what was absolute darkness. So Bibi says, when I started out, I was completely in the dark. Let's keep going. So his mystical experience. He said, by the way, he was reluctant to write about this, but he felt in the end that he had to, because he wanted, as we're saying, to show us himself as an example.
Mm-hmm.
He says, my loftiest, strangest, most significant, and most elevating mystic experiences occurred before I had even met a single teacher, before I had set foot on Asiatic soil. Through them, I was really reborn. But alas, in my youth and novitiate, I could not understand them. I was dazzled by the light, and so I continued to grope as though I were in the dark.